Hello and welcome to Pisces Moon Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Kait Leonard, and I'm excited to explore the stars with you. Hi everyone. Welcome to the first week of December. We have survived Thanksgiving and we're barreling towards Christmas and Yule and all the things. So here we go. It's a big week. I'm not going to even try to make it like it's not. I'm going to do things just a little bit differently. I'm going to give you some dates for some other things going on in the sky, and then I'm going to get into the biggies, and they are happening on December 6th. We've got Mars turning retrograde finally, and Venus travels to the underworld. My goodness, what does all that mean? But I did want to just let you know, because I'm always saying, there's all this other stuff going on in the sky, not just what I choose to talk about. And for time, I know you guys don't want me going on for 2 hours about all the various things, right? But let me at least give you some dates. And these aren't even all of them. Please know that. But here are some biggies. Venus is going to trine Uranus. That's a harmonious aspect on December 2nd. That brings unexpected anything. It brings the unexpected into love, art, money, all things Venusian. Venus is going to sextile the retrograding Neptune on December 4th. I don't like Neptune. You all know that. I do not like Neptune. Venus, even though a sextile is a positive aspect, we've got Neptune and we've got Neptune retrograding, right? So people in relationships, and that's any kind, it's friendships, it's all kind of relationships. Be looking out for some deceit and some lies. Is that going to happen to everyone? No, it's not. So don't get paranoid. But take the rose-colored glasses off. That's a Neptune thing. Mercury is going cazimi, going into the heart of the sun on December 5th. That is ultimately a really good day. That's when our minds, our thoughts, our communication, all of that is getting supercharged by the sun. But do keep in mind that Mercury is still retrograde at that point, and that we cannot see Mercury. When he's with the sun, he's invisible. So don't expect to have the big the big revelations until Mercury gets out of his retrograde and then 15 degrees in front of the sun when he's visible again and going direct. But we're actually talking about none of those things. We're talking about December 6th. I'm going to start with the Mars retrograde because I don't have quite as much to say about that. We've gone over this whole Mars in retro shadow and all of that. And if you haven't listened to those episodes, they may be helpful. Go back and take a peek at those. Take a listen. You know what I mean. Anyway, he's starting his retrograde in Leo. And this is the beginning of that do-over period of time. Remember I said when we were talking about the pre-shadow that Mars is going to go over things, we're going to do things, we're going to set plans in motion. But then when he retrogrades back over, just like when Mercury goes back and we have to rethink all those genius ideas we had, this is kind of the redo phase of it, okay? So look at what you've been setting in motion for the last few weeks and be honest with yourself. Do those things, whatever they were, do those things need revised? Do they need to be kind of tweaked and then relaunched? That'll be the kind of stuff I'm expecting mostly from this Mars retrograde. Now, one thing I do like about it this week is Mars and Mercury are making a very nice aspect with each other. Right? Now they're both retrograde. So it's weird, right? They're making a good aspect, but they're both retrograde. So Mercury, as I already said, is all about the rethinking, right? We're going to revise, rethink, reimagine, all of those things. And Mars is about redoing. So I think when they're in this aspect, it's really nice because we'll be rethinking. We'll have that hat on anyway. We'll be rethinking what we want to do, how we want to relaunch or whatever it's going to be. And then Mars is there with the energy to redo. I like it. I don't think that it's the most fun period of time because let's face it, when we put something out into the world, we just kind of want it to be great and perfect, right? This whole idea of redoing is not always, what we'd prefer, but if it's going to make it right? If it's going to make it successful and powerful, think Mars, right? If it's going to make it powerful and energized and all of those things, take your time, do the rethinking, do the redoing. I will say one other thing about this, and I actually didn't even write this in my Substack, at least not yet. So you guys are getting a bonus. Mars retrograde is also a tired Mars, right? Mars is our assertiveness, our energy, our fire, right? So when he's retrograding, we tend not to have so much of those things, right? So we can be a little more tired, a little bit lethargic, a little bit like, I don't feel like it. That's going to be the worst of this retro, okay? Because we need to redo, but honestly would like to renap. You know what I'm saying? So when you feel that coming on, first honor it for a little while. For a little while, okay? Honor it, take the nap, take the break, give yourself a little bit of downtime, and just know that that's what the energy is going to be. But then kick yourself in the butt a bit and get that redoing and going forward, right? So it's a little bit challenging, but ultimately can be really, really good. So I don't want anybody worrying about this one too much. Okay, so let's get into the one that I really think is the biggie. Fortunately, it's not going to last too long, but we will be feeling this energy all week. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Venus crossing into Aquarius. And of course, who is waiting right at that first degree of Aquarius? Pluto, god of the underworld, Hades. You know that guy. Venus, goddess of love, is crossing right over and she's going to be smack on top of him. If you remember the Persephone myth, I'm not going to go into detail because it is a myth that involves sexual assault. It has a happy ending. We get spring out of it. You know how those myths work. It's a little bit horrifying. But anyway, if there ever was a planetary theater of the Persephone myth, this is it. Venus will be diving into the underworld where she combines her energy with Pluto before she reemerges on the other side. That is exactly Persephone, right? She gets abducted into the underworld. There's some energetic, unfortunate merging that goes on there, and then she comes back to the surface and spring is born, right? So this is what we're talking about. Like, it's so literal. It's so, well, okay, that's not literal. It's so exactly metaphorical that metaphoric. Oh my gosh, you guys, and I'm not even going to fix this. I don't know what the word is. It's a metaphor, and it's a really exact one. All right. So, what does this mean? Well, obviously, we're not birthing spring. What are we doing here? So, put the words together, put the significations of Venus together with those of Pluto, and let's see what we come up with. Venus is love, art, money, relationships, women, sisters. She brings things together. She's luxury, comfort, beauty, all of those wonderful, lovely, luxe kind of Venus things, but she's also the beauty of nature. Pluto is power, deep transformation, bringing things from the shadows into the light. So unearthing things, but he's also the urge to control. He's manipulation. He's violence. So when Venus meets Pluto, we're going to see these areas of our life that have to do with all those lovely Venus things going through some struggles, some deep, hard struggles. Now, what do they look like? Well, they can be power struggles in any kind of relationship, depending on the house this is hitting you in. And I'm going to go through that in just a little bit more detail later. But power struggles with your boss, with your coworkers, with women in your life, friends, lovers, anybody. Right? Internal struggles having to do with your art, with your relationship to money, with your relationship to food, certain kinds of addictions. While Neptune is addictions for the most part, Venus is all about the carb, sugar, sweets kind of addictions. So wrestling with those kind of things. If it's hitting your first house, wrestling self-image. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the other thing besides power struggles are control issues. Who's controlling this relationship? Who's controlling this issue? Artists trying to control their art and ending up limiting it, right? Restraining it. The other thing to expect, or that we might expect, when we talk about Pluto bringing things to the surface, secrets can be revealed, lies can be uncovered, but also just things that have been buried, family issues that you haven't been allowed to talk about, shame that you carry, trauma that hasn't healed. And when we talk about it coming to the surface in a Plutonian way, think volcano. I want to mention Aquarius just for a little bit. And Aquarius is fixed air. It's not great. The fixed signs all have their challenges. And as a fixed sign person, trust me, I say this with love, but fixed air can be stubborn, right? No, I think what I think. This is the way I've always thought it. I'm not changing my mind. That kind of just force of will over, this is my plan. I'm going through with it, even if it's crazy. This is how I think things should be, even if there's good evidence that I should rethink. Okay. Now I'm hoping that maybe with all the retro energy that I already discussed, I'm hoping we'll be a little bit more open to the rethinking kinds of things, but who knows? You never know how a Mercury retrograde is going to hit. Is it going to help us? Is it going to hurt us? I don't really know. Now, you know what I'm going to say before you can really get a good hint about where this is going to show up in your life. You have to look at your natal chart. So go get it if you don't already have it, unless, I know a lot of you know yours perfectly. Go get your navel? Go get your navel chart, pull it up on that app, do whatever it is you have to do, because it's essential that you know where Aquarius is hitting your chart. All right. Let's do this. First house. So people with Aquarius first house. The first house is you. It is your essential self. So expect that you're going to be forced to face something that you've been stuffing. This can be some truth about yourself. It can have to do with shame, guilt, all kinds of things. But this is going to come up and it's going to need to be addressed and transformed. And if I didn't say it already, this transformation that happens with Pluto is permanent. So this is a really deep healing that can happen. Don't be afraid to bring that stuff up. You could also find that you're feeling dissatisfied with looks. Even gender identity issues can come up at this time. Second house, this is all about money and possessions, so get ready to address those areas of your life. Some of you are going to find that you've gotten into money troubles that have to do with vanity or FOMO. Right? Do people still say that fear of missing out thing? Anyway, have you been looking at Instagram and you're just like, oh, I've got to have that lifestyle, so you went out and charged it? Or this is a big one, instead of facing issues that needed to be addressed, you bought yourself an exotic trip. Like, are you using retail therapy instead of confronting your issues? That's going to be a big one for you guys. Also, are you pinning your sense of self-value on how much money you make or what possessions you have, that kind of thing? Any of that kind of stuff is fair game during this transit. Third house, this is struggles in communication. Maybe how you communicate. Are you too controlling? Are you too rigid? Think of those Aquarius fixed air kinds of things. But it can also bring up power struggles between siblings. And this could be misunderstandings that go all the way back to your childhood, right? That have been stuffed away and you're finally like, you know what? Mom really did always like you better, and now we're going to have this out. But again, I want to say, I think it's going to be more about communications. Are we bullying in how we communicate? And even if we don't mean to be, does it come across that way? Or are we allowing others to bully us? And do we need to stand in our power and speak our truth? Fourth house people, you know the one. This is interesting around the holidays, right? Especially after the election if you're in the US. This is family dynamics. So, are there secrets that need to be brought into the light? Are you finally ready to say what happened to you when you were little, or how certain things that happened in your childhood have impacted you? Are you finally able to stand in your own power and not be the little kid anymore? I know, I have a grown adult daughter, and I've watched her with certain family members have to sort of assert that it's like, you know what, you guys, I'm glad you liked me when I was a kid and all, but I'm not 12 anymore. And sometimes you have to fight for that position. That's a power thing, right? That's how it could play out in family. Fifth house people, this could involve power issues involving your children, with your children even, or parenting issues with your partner. It could be sexual power dynamics. Are you needing to express something to your sexual partner that maybe you haven't wanted to say, like, hey, you, I don't like it like that, or I want it more like this. I don't know what you need to do, but that stuff that you've been stuffing, don't stuff your stuff. Bring that stuff out. And then again, fifth house is creativity. So you creative folks out there, what limiting beliefs have you been nurturing down there in your core that you need to let go of? How do you stand in your power with your art, through your art? Are you letting other people's disapproval or opinions limit your artistic expression? It's a big one, you guys. It's a big one. Sixth house is interesting. This is going to bring up issues around health, fitness, diet, all of those kinds of things. Is it time for you to really confront how you've neglected your own health, or how you're not showing up for yourself and really taking care of that physical body? Do you need to change your diet? Do you need to get more serious with your exercise routine? Those are the issues that come up around sixth house. So this tends to be more internal struggles around, why you're not really taking full control of your health and well-being. Probably the biggest and most literal of all are you seventh house people. Seventh house is primary relationships. It's your marriage partner, your love partner, your whatever partner, right? This is Venus, Pluto. This is Persephone, Hades, playing out power dynamics in the relationship. Also, you guys, are there secrets either that you're going to learn about or that you need to fess to, right? It could come from either direction. And this is another area where sexual dissatisfaction could emerge. So how do you get through this one? Don't let that fixed air dictate how you communicate. Do your best to bring in that Venus energy, a little bit of that Venus softness. But remember, Venus is a powerful goddess. So when I say softness, I don't mean be a wimp. I just mean don't be rigid. Try to communicate lovingly, but powerfully. All right. Eighth house is a difficult one, and I'm just going to be straight up about that. This is going to bring up issues around confronting old trauma, old fear. This could be childhood trauma, but with Pluto involved, especially anyone who, I'm not going to say a lot about this, but anyone who has issues around being violated in any way, those are the issues that may need to come up and get truly healed. This is one that I just want to put out there, everyone. Take care of yourself, get your support around you, get an appointment with your therapist or healer or whoever you talk to, your friends, your mom, whoever it is, and don't do this one on your own, okay? My heart is with you. Ninth house. Power struggles around higher education. Now, that could be because you have a professor who's being a jerk and you need to put him or her in their place. But it could also be resentment because you put off going to college, either because, your partner's career needs were considered to be more primary, whatever. Those things are going to have to be addressed. Spirituality and religion is also ninth house. So are you involved in a high control religion? Might be time to break those ties, come out into the light, and find a spirituality that suits your truth better and empowers you. Also, if you have issues around any kind of abuse that occurred in that spiritual environment, it'll be time to address that and heal. 10th house is pretty straightforward. There are going to be problems at work, right? Power struggles, co-workers trying to undermine you through manipulation, dishonesty. And why would they be doing this? To get the boss's attention, to make themselves stand out. So expect for shenanigans at work, but it may be just very, very straightforward power struggles. And in all honesty, while the Venus thing can bring in the coworker, the peer-to-peer relationship thing, it is more likely to happen with higher ups because of that Hades influence, right? The 11th house has to do with friends and group identity. So again, really straightforward. Power struggles within friend groups, or this can also be things like professional organizations, community groups you work with, those kinds of things where there are just power struggles, or maybe you're feeling like you need to assert your power more. And the other thing, it can come up that secrets are revealed, things that have been hidden. So between friends groups, we definitely see that, there are some kind of dynamics that are going on where there's been something happening in the shadows that now gets revealed, and you have to address it. You have to address it head on. The 12th house is interesting. It's about mental health, and it's also about isolation. Okay, the 12th house has everything to do with alone time and isolation, whether in a positive way or not. There's good and bad isolation, right? This is a really good time to go back into therapy or continue. I don't know, maybe you never stop therapy, or whatever healing modality you use, and really address issues of trauma, deep buried stuff. I promise you, if this is you, there's stuff that no matter how much work you've done in therapy already, there's more to do. That's just always what this means. It may not be a lot. Don't get scared. Just go handle it so you can stand in your power. But one that I find interesting that I see come up with this one a lot is people who use isolation as power. So either they ostracize people, like they ghost them or whatever it's called, right? And this is the way of asserting power. Or you may be one of those, I'm going to take my toys and go home people. So you isolate yourself as a way of controlling the situation. If one of these is you or your partner, right? If one of these, but in the 12th house, it's most likely you. But if you tend to be the one always falling victim to that kind of thing, this will be a good time to address that and try to figure out why is that the tactic and find a better way of standing in power. I will promise you, if you do that, it usually goes back to early trauma, and that's why it's coming up right now. So there are a lot of ways this can show up in 12th house, but usually it is going to have to do with something that is at least in some way connected to mental health issues. Now, that's about it for the houses for me. Thank you for sticking with that. And remember this, the Persephone myth ends well in that mythic kind of weird way, but we do get spring out of it, right? This is about going deep, healing big stuff, but coming out better and transformed. Come out as Venus, the powerful, mighty goddess, right? This isn't about going in and getting crushed. It's the opposite, but it is about sort of going through the fire. Remember the underworld, going through the fire in order to come out more empowered and stronger. So we got this. And with all of that, thank you so much. I value you all beyond what I can say. If you would share the podcast, that would mean everything to me. And please go over to my Substack, totally, totally free. I would love to see you over there. I don't send out, I know you have to put your email in for it. I promise I don't send emails. I probably send like 3 a year, and that's just to offer freebies or specials. So I'm not going to like use it in any kind of weird way, or certainly not sell it. I wouldn't even know how to do that. Y'all know me by now. I don't know how to make stuff like that happen. So that's all I've got. Welcome to December. And until next week, go out and seize the energies of the stars. This is my wish for you always. And yeah, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.